Welcome to Legio Mariae Podcast, the first English language podcast of the Legio Mariae in the world. My name is Gustavo. I'm your host tonight, and I have the big joy to welcome my dear friend and brother, Felipe Cunha.
Thank you for having me, Gustavo, and all the brothers in the Legion and sisters. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't know what I can add to this, but thank you for inviting me.
Amazing. Thanks for accepting the invitation. And Felipe, we would like to start with some information about you. Tell me, who are you, where you come from, and what you're doing here tonight.
Right, who am I? I'm from Brazilian. I'm from a small town called Tianguá, and in a small state called Ceará in Brazil. And I came to Ireland 11 years ago to learn English. And my wife got a job in Belfast, and we moved here, and we're here since. And I was born and raised in a Catholic family, and my mom and dad were always involved in church activities, organizing events and things in the parish, and involved in, couples for Christ and things like that. So that was the environment I grew up in, but I really think my experience came much later than that. And I think before that, I just went to the church because of them. And then, when you become a teenager, you just go away. And then when I was 15, I had a big experience, and that brought me back to God. When I came to Ireland, I already came with a mission. I didn't come just to be here, just to study English. I came with a mission. I want to learn English for a reason.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
34. And you married?
Yeah, I'm married 11 years.
11 years?
Because we got married 4 days later, we came to Ireland. So it's easy to know when I came and how long I'm here. And I had 6 kids. I've lost 2, so I have 4 kids. Yeah.
What are their names?
So Pedro, Clara, then we lost Agnes and Jose. Then we lost Francisco, and then Beatriz.
And Aline?
That's my wife, yeah.
4 days after your wedding in Brazil, you came to Ireland. Was she aware of your plans?
Yeah, she was fully on board. Before we came to Ireland, our idea was to maybe do a mission in Africa or something like that. We just thought there was no point in doing anything while we didn't have English, so we should focus on having English. And that was the whole reason why we started thinking about going outside of the country. And my sister, who lived in Dublin before, she said, why don't you go to Dublin? You have Portuguese citizenship. Why don't you go to Dublin? Because we're thinking about America. And then we said, yeah, let's do it. She said, I have some contacts. I can help you. And then the problem was, she said, housing in Dublin is very expensive. You probably need to share a house. Because you're in the church, I guess you probably want to get married before you go. So that's why we decided to get married. And the 4 days later we came, because getting married was the plan for later, but it was pushed back because of our idea to come.
So your honeymoon was in Ireland?
It still is.
Very nice. Tell me a little bit more about your background in Brazil. You said you were away from the faith for a while when you were a teenager, and then you had a big experience and you came back to the faith. How was that?
I just had probably nowadays it makes no difference for the teenagers. I think everybody does what I did, but back then it was a big thing. I always drink. I always drank since I was very, very small. Of course, my mom and dad didn't know, and we start to drink more and more, to do wrong things, going out with the girls and stuff like that. And to the point where I was 13, and I would have in front of my house probably over 200 people partying, as if it was the point of the city to to go for a party, Like I remember I had friends, going out in the cars and doing, drifts in the car and stuff like that, and drinks and music, and you know how it's like in Brazil. You have the big speakers outside in the road, and police coming all the time to say you have to be silent after 10 p.m. This sort of stuff. So this was the context I was in, and we decided then, me and friends decided that we want to try something new. So we thought we could try some different style of drugs and stuff. That didn't go well. What happened was someone told my dad that I was selling drugs, which I wasn't. But because I was in a gym at the time at 5 a.m., and was very suspicious, and the contacts that we were having to try to find some different things, it looked like I was the one selling instead of the one buying. And I think the peak of that was whenever I was selling my friend's mom's jewelry, and I sold very cheap. I sold it very, very cheap, and I sold for the person that worked for my aunt. And what happened was my aunt found it strange that this person was wearing gold jewelry, and she asked, where did you buy that? And she said, well, I bought from your nephew. And then, so I didn't notice how bad it was, what I was doing. I didn't notice how bad I'm selling something that could have been stolen. I didn't know. My friend just said, oh, my mom doesn't want that anymore. We can sell that to buy drinks. So I did that. So when these two things happened, people saying that I was selling drugs, and other person saying that I was stealing things to sell, that didn't go down well with my parents. And so we had a difficult conversation back then, and we thought it was better for me to try to get away from my friendship and move to another city. And that move was very hard. And I moved to the big city, Fortaleza, which is the capital of Ceará. And then I felt very lonely. People were very rich there, and I wasn't not nowhere near them, and it was very hard to make friendship, and I find myself very, very lonely and very hard to make friendship, because I came from a small town. Everybody knew each other, so I didn't have to make any efforts to make friends. But when I got to Fortaleza, then I had to, and that was really hard. And then when that happened, my mom obliged me to go to a confirmation course. It was part of the school system.
What age were you?
Sorry, I was 15.
15.
So yeah, I went to live with my sister. I was 14, and then that was a few months later. And here in Ireland, it's very common that the school does the first communion and confirmation. In Brazil, it's not the case, but that school particularly, they do that, and they are very famous to have many conversions during the confirmation course. So my mom kind of obliged me to go to it, and I did. When it was a retreat time, I didn't really want to make it. There was a concert that I wanted to go on the same day, but if you didn't go to the retreat, you could not do the confirmation. So I kind of was obliged to go. And I remember doing the confirmation course, every time they switch off the lights to do some prayers, I would start crying. I had no idea why I was crying. And until this day, when they did that, and they start to sing a song and ask people to come to the front, and I went crying, to the front. I thought something is happening here, but it was only during the retreats that I met people that I felt I didn't know they existed. They were in the same school that I was, but they were simpler, they were nicer, they were very friendly, and that kind of attracted me to stay with them, and then the rest is history. I just became more passionate about what they did, how they did look after the poor. They'd go out to evangelize. They'd go to the every corner to talk about God. They'd go to the streets and hug the homeless. They'd give food, they'd give clothes. They just want to hang out with them, stay with them, just talking, just see how they were. And that really I was really impressed with that. They'd go out and talk to prostitutes and just to talk to them about God, and I was really impressed. So I that changed my perspective. And I think from that moment, God stopped being someone that people talk to me about it, and I start to be an experience. So
you mentioned that you were in these moments of prayer or the preparation for the confirmation, and people would switch off lights and you would cry. Is there any specific moment that you can say you had an encounter with God?
Yeah. So they were singing a song. The Blessed Sacrament was there, right in the middle. It was an arena style of a theater, but an arena style. So all the seats was around a big circle. So they switch off all the lights, and just the middle one was on and was on the Blessed Sacrament. And they start to play a song that says, I tried to do a free translation here, but go running and meet the Father. He's waiting for you. Just give a step in faith, and you see with the eyes of faith. And when they were singing, there was a person kind of leading the prayer in the song, and they just saying that this is for you, and that's God's talking to you. And my feeling was I had to run on the top of everyone to go to the center, and that's what I did. I just went straight to the center, and I think that was the first big experience there. Things did not change completely from that moment, but that was a before and after. So I think that's the climax of that.
How would you describe your way of living and seeing things after that experience?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because everything was the same, but I wasn't anymore. And the taste of things change. We want to go out chase girls, and then I was like, should I? Is this right? Is this the right way to do it? And then you want to go out and get drunk, and I say, I don't want to get drunk. I actually want to get sober. I just want to just enjoy the night and see how the sky is nice, and that was something that changed. And I remember people saying, "Oh, you start to be very stupid or strange and behave strange." And I say, "That's I can't explain. It's just the way it is. It doesn't feel right. I don't know why it doesn't feel right, because I always did that. I always went to the church and did the same thing. So why now it doesn't feel right? It just didn't, and I couldn't explain. And then people stopped inviting me to things.
And were you praying at this time?
Can you call that a prayer? Yes, I guess I was. I think that became bigger after the retreat, when I start to meet people, and then I want to just go barefoot on the streets. That was me afterwards. When I got to know people from Lumen, which is the community that I was part of, that was a big thing for me. We just want barefoot, talk to the homeless, sleep on the streets, and we learn about penance, sacrifice, fasting together as a group. And I think that was a massive thing afterwards. But up until then, I think the main thing for me, I remember moments in my house. I was living on my own. I was officially, from my mom and dad's eyes, I was living with my sister, but she was in a bad moment of her life personally as well, where she was away from everything. So she wouldn't come home very often. So I'd live on my own. Since I was 14, I lived basically on my own for a bit over a year. And And I remember in my house just crying during lunchtime for no reason. And one of these moments, I remember just falling on my knees and, and then start to talk to God properly. And I remember I had many posters of, rock bands and stuff that I liked that I thought wasn't really, wasn't compatible with the feeling I had. It's like all the revolt that was in my heart that made me follow these. Nothing against them. It's just at that moment, it just didn't make sense to have them. So I started to get them all ripped and throw them away and stuff like that. So I think it was a big moment, but it was progressive. Wasn't
overnight.
Definitely it wasn't. It continues to today, to be honest.
And you were 15 or 14?
At that stage, I was 15. Yeah,
you were 15.
Yeah, I moved. It was November, and I'm from February, so it's 14, but it's only 3 months away. And then I was 15.
Okay, and then you joined this community. You took part on it.
Yeah, Lumen. Yeah.
And how long you were there for?
I was in Lumen for 3 years.
So until you were more or less 17, 18?
Until I was 18.
Until you were
when
18.
I was 18, I joined the monastery.
Okay.
I lived in the monastery.
Would you say your time, 3 years in this community, shaped your spiritual life, or at least from that time?
Oh yes, big time. Yeah. Yeah. That literally shaped my being, who I am today. That was at least 3 years there. Everything.
And then by the age of 18, you left to join the monastery.
Yeah.
And why did you decide to go to the monastery? What was happening in your life?
Yeah, so we were living like that. We're barefoot, going out on the streets, long rosary, the 4 rosaries, all in our trousers and stuff like that. That was how I would walk on the streets, and that's what I like to do. And I just thought, I can't be fulfilled in a normal job, 9 to 5 kind of idea. I thought I want something more, and there was a community that would fulfill that desire at the time, which was Stock Adjacis. But they didn't allow people male vocations to be priests, neither female, by the way. But but the branch was only for religious, was not for priesthood. And so I started to look elsewhere, and then I found this other community.
Just before you go in, you mentioned that Stock Adjacis, because it's a Franciscan community, you always had this Franciscan heart.
Yeah. My heart is brown. Yeah.
And where does that come from?
Lumen? I don't know.
It's just praying and going through spirituality?
Yeah, I think Lumen community, they were always very Franciscan in everything they did. And I just fit well with my... So before going to Lumen, I always had in the back of my mind, I want to be a hippie. Mm-hmm. Before my conversion, I just wanted to live by the nature and all these things, go to the beach and waves and things like that. So that was my back, or was in the back of my mind. So when I found that, it's just like, oh, that's the solution. I just want to do that, but for Christ, not for the nature. You know what I mean? So I don't know, it just fit my personality. And so Padre Pio was the first one that was presented to me. And I knew St. Francis, just people talking about him, but never had a really connection with his life. It was through Padre Pio and the love for Mass and the Eucharist that I started to grow into the Franciscan spirituality, and then grew more into St. Francis.
And you were living this spirituality in Lumen?
Yeah.
And I think this is commonly spread in the church, that is like when you have a devotion for a saint, it's not you who chooses him, it's him who chooses you. Did you feel that?
Yeah, 100%.
Right. And then tell us then, when you joined the monastery, how did you find the monastery, and what you going through in your life that you decide to take this step?
So again, I was feeling that I really want to go to have something higher, and austere.
And you mentioned you wanted to become a priest?
Yeah, I want to be a priest.
Okay.
And so this community was not Franciscan. They were Carmelites.
Okay.
But they had a good connection with St. Francis. So they'll promote the barefoot idea, sleeping on the floor, and the penance and everything, and the fraternity. But in a Carmelite silence and mental prayer idea. So I discussed that many times with the vocational director, and the more I spoke, the more it looks like it was the best place for me to go. So I did go. I spent 3 years there in the community, and I can see. Then I grew into the Carmelite spirituality, which I didn't know. I didn't appreciate it as much, but that also became. I started to get good friends in the Carmelite spiritualities, like Saint John the Cross and Saint Teresa of Avila. I really like their style, and that was added in shaping who I am and what I like today. Of course, later I can talk to you about another saint. That this one actually, only now I know how much influence I had of him in these early days, but I had no idea who he was back then. But anyway, so I was in this monastery. Everybody that was there, they were shaped into the Toca de Assis style. So most of people that were there, they also thought about Toca de Assis before they went there. So it was very easy for me to relate to what they wanted. And some of them were more than the others. So we had the heart in the same place. And with time, these people start to leave the community. And then I start to feel a bit lost. It looked like the spirituality that actually joined was no longer there. Like the founder charism of the male branch of this community was no longer present. So we start to lose sense when I was there. And anyway, 3 years later, again, 3 years later, I left.
Tell us about your day-to-day did you take any vows?
No.
No vows. Tell us about your spirituality day-to-day. What was like in the monastery?
Like what would you do in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd wake up. 4:15 was the wake up time. It depends on how many people had to take the shower, because you had different cells. That's how we call the rooms of the monastery. So if you share one bathroom, you have 15 minutes before. So usually I was either 4 or 4:45, and then we had to fix up the things for the initial prayers, the morning prayers of the church, the laudes. So I would fix up the room, the where we say the prayers, and then we'd say the prayers about, I think it was 4:45, and after after laudes we'd go and do a mental prayer and say a rosary, and then we had mass, and after mass, then depending on the day, if it was not a fast day, we'd have breakfast. And then we'd go out for the works. And then lunchtime, if it was a day to have lunchtime, you'd go back. If not, you just carry on working. And then you had a nap time that was mandatory. You could not escape that, because it's part of the discipline of the life. Otherwise, you just can't support you can't stunt the discipline. So I think it was 1 p.m. I can't remember, but I think it was 1 p.m. And then 2 p.m. would wake up, take another shower, especially the brothers, because we'd be working heavy lift and doing gardening and stuff like that.
So that is a type of work. It's not works of mercy or anything like that?
No. We would have the poor, the poor people around the community that would go there, but it wasn't given days, wasn't every day, and it wasn't everyone. So the community, the brothers, the older brothers, older by monastic age, not by your proper age, but the older brothers would go to the seminary if they were seminarians, where us would be looking after the house and the garden and everything else. So I would be responsible for the sound system. So I'd be repairing sound system cables, other things. Other people would be carpenters. They'd be fixing up chairs, benches, whatever. And others would be gardening. Others would be preparing the lunch. Depends on what your work is assigned to. But because everything was heavy work, if there was a construction happening, it would be helping the builders. We'd be doing the cement, the concrete, and everything, helping them. So it'd be very heavy. So in Brazil, it'd be very warm. So they had to take another shower during the day. Then we'd go Divine Mercy chaplet once we wake up, and then we had I don't know how you call there's a prayer in the middle of the day that you need to say as well as part of the divine office. And then in the afternoon, you have Vespers, and then dinner, and then compline, and then that's complete silence until the next morning. So that's basically the day-to-day there.
Right. In these 3 years, is there any special moment that you remember or you recall that were important to shape what you are today? Or is there any days or years that you remember with gratitude for being there?
Every second.
Every second?
Yeah. I love living there. I love doing the work. I love the lifestyle. There were difficulties and things like that, but there's not one special big moment. I think everything was good. It was good to meet some holy priests like Father Rufus, Rufus Pereira, who lived in London, but was an exorcist of the church. And I was able to serve with him very, very closely, helping him during the prayers. It was really a blessing, and met other priests as well, Father Fidel, who's an eldest priest. So anyway, there are other. I was very blessed to meet so many good people, but I think in general I like the lifestyle, I like the community, I like everything. It just was becoming, the meaning of it was going away, and that's the reason why it started to lose sense of me being there.
I was gonna ask next. Why did you leave?
Yeah, I don't think there is a one single answer for that.
Was building up?
Wasn't building up either. It was one advice I give for people is, if you join a community, go for a community that's approved by the church, you have the proper means of authority to search for, to go for if there's anything wrong. So in this community, and I wasn't, unfortunately, I think there were some things that they did that was wrong, and it was hard to repair. I'd say almost impossible to repair. And as I said, friends of mine, the brothers that were there with me, started to leave, and that was red flags. People that were there for many years, 10 years, leaving. So these were red flags to me, and so I just thought I needed some time. I had two problems inside of me, not inside of the community. I was two problems inside. One, I wanted a more austere life, but I didn't find all the brothers that were carrying me through that path. They had left, and the other way, I thought, did I make the right decision of wanting just? Did I decide that because I want comfort? You know what I mean? Monastery life is not comfy, but Did I decide that because I want to run away from something, I wanted to make sure that that was in the right place? So anyway, I asked to leave to think about it, and because I didn't have any vows, that was the best time to do it, and I decided to leave.
Would you say, I don't know how to word this. So see if you understand what I'm trying to say. Would you say your desire or your will to become a priest died, or you just discerned that this was not for you?
I don't think it's one or the other. I just decided, I just thought the same God that called me to go, called me to do something else. And I took as my vocation to be the guardian of the person that today is my wife. And that's my vocation. And that's how I embraced it. And part of that means I'll no longer be a priest. I never knew if I was going to be a priest or not, because that's never in our hands. It's a calling. Mm-hmm. It's not a decision. Modern life makes us think that it's up to us to decide. Oh, I want to be a priest. I don't want to be a priest. Who say that's up to you to decide? It's a calling. It's always a calling. So even the bad priests, if they were ordained, that's a calling. It's the church calling them and then making them into priests. So Aline, she was part of this community as well. So I knew her, and whenever I left before she left. But I had in my mind that my vocation was to be her guardian, and I didn't know if she was going to leave or not. When we left, it was a group of people that left together. It was not only myself. As I said, people were leaving in a matter of months. If you take like 12 months, 15 people left together. But I was in my mind, if she one day ever leaves, that'll be my job, and that's how I embraced it.
I heard about a lot of people when they go. I have some friends who joined the seminary to become a priest, and they unfortunately left, and most of them left with a very negative view of God, as they tried to seek God's will, and I'm not sure of the feeling because I never did, but I just can think maybe they think they weren't good enough, or something happened and made them be angry with God when they left. And I know many cases when people even go through atheists paths and they say no, God doesn't exist. All I was willing to do was an illusion, and they go through a very bad, difficult time when they leave seminary or convent or monastery. Did anything like that happen to you?
Not to me personally. There was a degree of revolt, because you speak to God, you hope that God's listening to you. Rebellion on the inside, but I didn't last long with me, because I knew what God was doing. But I have many friends that had been through this path, and it's the anger against God. Say, I pray to you. I asked you to not lead in the wrong path. Why did you bring me to this community? Why did you bring me to this place where it's certainly not the right place for me to be? And these things. So what we developed, as I said, because we lived as a group, we left as a group, we developed a kind of sport chain.
Each other.
Yeah, where we support each other. And we start just to help other people that were leaving. So they want to talk, they want to put it out, and they had nowhere to do it because nobody listened to them. Everybody judged them, saying that's their fault. Others once trying to help start to blaspheme against God or against the church or anything. So we try to make this safe place where they could come, put all the anger out, and we try to help them. So many have come back to the faith, but not everyone, I'm afraid. And that's an experience, and that's something we can't help. Some people need more time than others. It is common to have this rebellion, and because you understand the frustration when you pray sincerely, you give up everything, you do it, and then you say, why you did that, why this way, why me? And then we try to say how all good things that God made through that, being the friendship, one of them. Now we're friends of each other. That's because of this community. That's because we went in, and that's because we experienced that together. So we try to see the bright side, and I, for many years, I thought about doing a proper NGO to help these people, and it's still in my mind. I don't have the money and the capacity and the number of people that can actually, psychologists, psychologists, or to do any other therapy, or even other types of medical help that people need when they go through that, financial help to get job for these people and all that. I don't have it now, but maybe in the future that's something that I can do it officially. But yeah, that's a hard thing. It is hard to see people going away, especially because you shared a life with them in a way that nobody did, because we shared sometimes same bedroom, because in a place we used to live, we'd share the same bedroom sometimes with 2 or 3 other people. So 24 hours, you can hide yourself from others. You can't hide yourself in a monastery. Others can think you're a saint. People inside the monastery know you're not. And it's like you're naked. So we know each other to that level. And it's hard when you come out of the discipline of the monastery to see them going away, and then they start to blame us, saying, "Oh, you judge how I live. You judge my choice." It's not judgment. It's just we stayed where we were, and you were the one that went away. So it is hard. It is hard, but you need to help, and then you need to be able to. So I've heard people saying horrible things against me and against my wife and against other friends. But if they come back, I never treat them as if they did something to me. I always try to treat them because I know they were not being themselves. They're just being dragged away from what they really were,
Just before we move on, I know you didn't want to spend much time on this, but it's very interesting, and it's the first of a kind that we're speaking about this. I wanted to ask 2 things from you. First, so let's do the first, and I'll ask the second whenever you finish your response. What would you say to a religious person, a priest, a nun, anyone that is going through some crisis, thinking that they made the wrong choice, or maybe they are thinking about coming back or anything like that? What would you say to people going in crisis in their vocation?
Well, I don't think I'm particularly wise or appropriate to give that sort of advice. But if it was my children, I would just say the Christ that you got in love, the Christ that you want to give your life to, is still there. It's still there. And you got to make the decision, and that's going to be your decision. It's not God's decision. It's your decision to go and keep going and fight the good fight, or to leave. But whatever you decide, you got to remember who you are in love with. If you're in love with God, with Christ, I have this sponsor. It's not the right way to say in English. I have this idea that we have an alliance with God. We have these. How do you call? It's not an alliance, is it? It's the covenant.
Covenant. Okay.
With God, and once you decide for it, nothing can change. No, it's something that nobody outside can change it. So I couldn't give a proper advice. What I can say is what God told my wife, and that was that He'd be there. He'd be there. He'd be in the Eucharist for her before and after. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. We need to remember that, and you need to keep that in front of us. Otherwise, you lose hope. You get desperate. And if that happens, when you lose hope and when you're hopeless, then it's much harder for you to find the faith back, to find the love back. So
that's great. We can translate this for our reality as well. As legionaries, we could sometimes be in some way depressed or going through difficulties in our legionary life. And I think that is a great piece of advice to remember the God that called us. Remember that Our Lady who called us, she is still there and the love is there. That's amazing. I loved it. Now, the second one, I think you already answered, but just to reiterate, when someone leaves a vocation or a religious life, the best way for them to stay faithful and don't lose the faith in your situation was through support, friendship.
Yeah, but I must say, I did a commitment. I told myself, because when you leave, you have no job, right? So I told myself I would not miss a daily mass.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
I would keep going. And I remember how hard it was the 2 months after I left, 2 or 3 months after I left, going to mass was a torture. I still loved God. I still want to be there. But it was like it was killing me. It's like, I don't know. It's like you see your ex-girlfriend break up with you, and then you need to go every day and see her with a new boyfriend. That's the feeling. You have the feeling that you have broke up a relationship, but you still have to see the person with someone else. So that's the feeling. But I had to keep going, and I can't say enough how that was. I think was a source that my crisis went away. I couldn't smile properly for at least a year. I feel that my smile was fake. All the pictures, I thought, oh, that's fake. That's not me. That's not myself. Because I had to adapt myself to the new life, And so, yeah, people need to keep going to mass. They need to keep doing, even if they don't feel like it, and because that's the way things are. And then you go back to normal. And that's important, especially if you're in a sectarian community, or a place where you think God is there, and not in anywhere else. It's very important that God is still here, God is still here. Because, just one thing about that is when people leave communities that have sectarian mindset, what happened to them is they think that salvation was only there. And it's more important for them to be faithful to the community than to God himself. So I won't name it, but there are other communities nowadays, internationally known, that people go to. They think if they leave, God's gonna abandon them. They'll be gone.
I was gonna say to you, so you were 21 or 22 when you left.
Yeah.
Okay. What happened after? What steps did you take in your life?
So I went back studying. I went to study law, and I got a job in a call center. So to work during the day and then go to uni during the night, during the evening. Um, that's it. That was that for a long time.
And when did you get to see Aline again?
Yeah, so what happened was she also left months later, and we started talking. She lived in Rio de Janeiro, and I lived in Ceará, so it's like 2,000 kilometers apart. Because I wasn't well, my mother invited her to live with her in her house in my small town. I was living in Fortaleza. She was living in my small town with my mom, and then she was studying there accountancy and working in my family school. We have a school in my town in Brazil, and I was in Fortaleza. Then I think we stayed 6 months or 7 months like that. Then she got her own place. Then I went back to my mom's house, and then I studied law there, and I was then working in a solicitor's office. Then I moved jobs to do state agency, and that's how I got the money to come to Ireland. So that was it. That was 2 years time.
2
when I got
years?
married, yeah.
And you were 24?
I was 23 when I got married.
Got married.
Yeah.
And then
July 15.
how was your wedding day?
That was
It's like you asked about a vocation.
I know.
I asked Father Martin about his ordination. How was your wedding day?
Yeah, it was an adventure. It was crazy. We tried to do in a very remote place, so that it'd be very hard for people to go because I didn't have the money to do a big party. But they still got 120 people to make it from, I think, 12 states of Brazil.
Wow.
Yeah. All our bridesmaids and what do you call grooms? Groomsmen?
Grooms and the best man.
Yeah. All of them were members of the community that we were, apart from 4 or 5 in total that are from our childhood or from Lumen community. And that's it. It was a great day. It was a day that won't be forgotten for all of us. So for members of the community, it was a kind of the victory of God in our lives. It was like a mark, there's a before and after our wedding, because we solidify our friendship there, but not only that, one thing worked, out of all that.
Right, so there was a before and after. Tell me about the day you moved to Ireland. How was it? What was your expectation, and how did you end up in Dublin?
Yeah, so I came to Dublin, as I said, because my sister suggested, because we already had the Portuguese citizenship, and it would just be easier to do it, to study and work. The day we came, we found it very cold, and it was August. So I think back then, I said, oh my goodness, I had no idea what cold was. But anyway, we thought it was very cold. And it was brilliant. It's a brilliant feeling to come into a new country, to learn new things. You come with so many ideas, and you think it's gonna be easy. You think I think you have the idea that it's going to be, you're gonna adapt yourself very easily. In no time you'll be speaking English, and that's not the case.
Did you have no English at all?
No English. Aline came with good English. I didn't have any. I remember the first day going to the school. My school was Dublin English school, right? And I want to try my English. So I went in the streets and I approached someone and said, hey, where is Dublin English school? And the person replied, and I couldn't understand a single word. So that's how it was. So bad.
And then what happened in Dublin?
Yeah, so in Dublin, I was going to this school, and then after I would go straight to Mass in St Mary's Pro Cathedral.
English?
English Mass.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I would then start to help with the Brazilian church before Frei Severino went there. It was just run by lay people, and then I used to help them there. We had a priest, Father Michael, who is a Salesian priest who had done mission in Brazil, so he spoke Portuguese very well. So he used to say Mass there every Sunday. I used to help them there, lead adorations and lead, the music in the church and all. So I helped them, and a friend of mine told me that there was this man, there was a missionary in Brazil that speaks Portuguese and give English class for free using Bible, the sacred scriptures, and prayers to teach people English. And I said, that sounds good. So I went to his class, and that was Brother Tag. Brother Tag, as the Brazilian community call him, Timocho, which is the translation. He was a missionary in Brazil. He established the Legion in Brazil along with other 2 legionaries. He did in northeast of Brazil, which is where I'm from. Northeast? Yes, northeast. And so I was really amazed by how dedicated he was. But he was already a very old man. So his classes would have 4 or 5 students. And because it was Bible and things like that, some people would come and not persevere because they were not paying for it. It was for free. So people would come and go. And then he then invited me to join the Legion.
He did?
Yes. So I later found out he was a member of the Legion. That was his duty, one of his duties. He had many duties. and he was the one that established the Legion in Brazil. I learned all that later. And that's how I joined. And then I joined Morning Star in Dublin.
To this point, have you ever heard about the Legion of Mary before?
Yes. That's something interesting to talk about, because in Brazil, the idea we have is Legion of Mary is for old ladies, right? And they do their own thing there. Probably they say a rosary. We have no idea what they do, but we know they say a rosary. And we know there is something to do with the rosary, and there is something to do with them joined together. I think it's because Brazil has so many movements, and that became a thing. But my wife's mother had joined the Legion of Mary. So she loved it, and she'd say she'd visit the sick and all that, and I say, that's interesting. So I'll give them a try.
Still in Brazil?
No. When Brother Tig invited me.
All right.
I thought I'll give them a try.
Right. Okay.
Yes. And when I went with a friend, a Brazilian friend as well. And when we left, my friend said, oh, they should have a guitar playing some songs. It's very old-fashioned. It's very structured. You have minutes, you have the rosary, and then you have the reports. I don't like it. And I say, mate, I didn't even understand a single word in this meeting. But there was something changing inside me when I came to Dublin, that I wanted to learn other ways to live my faith. Because the only way I knew was the way that we do in Brazil with the charismatic renewal and stuff like that. I was already very traditional. Like I already loved the Tridentine Mass, the Latin Mass. I already loved it. I already knew about it. I loved the liturgy. As I said, my conversion was very much related with Padre Pio. So I already had that connection with the old Mass and everything. But the way we live the faith is like, oh, let's say a prayer. Yeah, someone needs to get a guitar. We need to sing a song. We had to. And I was trying to find other ways, especially after the monastery, that we live the Carmelite spirituality and all that. I said there must be other ways to live the faith. So it was very interesting, because when I came to the Legion meeting, and my friend was thinking that, I was like, grow up, man. He was much older than me. So I was 23. He was probably 50 at the time. So we played together in the church, and he went with me. He was living in my house at the time. We were sharing house, and then he was like missing a bit of songs, a bit of novelty, and I was like, "You should grow up. We need to try to see this style. It's serious. It's an army. It's a legion. It's an army. That's how it should be. Structure, accountability. You need to come back. You need to give a report. You need to evangelize. You need to go out. So that was something that I had to learn to love. Wasn't instinctive. I had to learn. So yeah, that's it.
And so you stayed because you had an interest in the back, which was to learn English. But then, what happened while you were going to the meetings and stuff?
Yeah, so we went to the meeting, and then we had to do the duty in Morning Star,
Right.
which was serving the meals, talking to the homeless, saying the prayer. And I said that's exactly a mix of Lumen and the community that I was, the two communities, because we were there helping the poor, cleaning the house, doing the dishes, speaking to them, and then the bell ring at 6 p.m. Everybody stop everything, go to the chapel, say the rosary, say vespers together. So that was a perfect
You
thing.
felt at home.
I felt completely that's it. I felt at home. There was a Filipino priest there, Father Boboy, Father Angelo. But every Filipino has a nickname, and they are known by their friends by the nickname, not by the name. So his name is Father Angelo, but everybody knows him as Father Boboy. And he was very patient with me, teaching me English, the words to say and things like that. He was a Jesuit priest, and he helped me a lot in that beginning. And my prayer for Frank Duff was that he should teach me to learn English. He should teach me English because I want to evangelize in English, and I think God fulfilled that by bringing me to Belfast. But that was like duck to the water, doing the work with the homeless, and that was great.
And for how long you were in Dublin?
So that's the thing, only 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, Aline got a job in Belfast when we were 2 months in Dublin. So she moved to Belfast before I moved. I had to finish my English course there. So only after it finished, I came with the idea to come back. But then I came to Belfast and I loved it even more.
What year you're talking?
That was March 2016.
2016.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Father Boboy passed away in 2016. He had epilepsy crisis, and then he didn't survive. So he was back in Philippines at that time.
Cerebral.
Yeah.
March 2016, you moved to Belfast.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
So when I moved to Belfast, I already was a Morning Star in Dublin, so I just searched Morning Star Belfast, and there was a Facebook page with like 2 photos or something, and then I text the page to say, "Hey, I'd like to join the Legion," and then Brother Michael O'Reilly replied and say, "Yes, I can pick you up," and that's it. That's how I joined, and then he picked me up from my house and brought back home every meeting for a good year or so, and that's it. He invited me to play football with the guests of Morning Star and the staff. So just it was very natural. It was like meeting an uncle and a cousin or something, So that's it.
Do you remember when you met me at Mass?
I do, yes.
When was that?
Oh, the date? I had no idea.
The month roughly.
I don't know. That was probably... So March I came. I was looking for something. So probably I would say July, September?
July, September.
July, August. Because then we had the conference.
Was in October.
October the same year, wasn't it?
Mhm.
The 16th.
2016, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was around July to September, because I remember that one of the first things we spoke was about the Legion, and then the conference was immediate after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just before we go to a break,
Yes.
I want to say from my perspective, first, let me ask this. You were consecrated to Our Lady.
Yes.
And you did that in Brazil or here?
So before I went to the monastery,
Okay.
there was a group, 3 guys that came from another community. They left their community to join Lumen. And when they came, their previous group was in Our Lady of Fatima's parish. And they were the leaders of that group. And when they joined Lumen, they were talking about this consecration to Our Lady. And people would make fun, like, oh, look at them, they're consecrated to Our Lady, you need to respect them and things like that. And I didn't understand the jokes. And then I asked one of them to explain to me, and then they started to explain that's St. Louis Marie Grand de Montfort, that's how you do it, and then that's why we wear this chain and all that. And I said, well, I want to do that. So they prepared me to my first consecration. And so I did my consecration in the month before I joined the monastery.
So that was, you remember?
2013. No, 2010.
2010.
Yeah.
And was May Our Lady of Fatima or?
No, it was February.
Any title of Our Lady?
I can't remember.
Can't remember.
No,
Okay.
I can't remember my first title. It was either February or March, because I joined the monastery in April.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So 2010.
Yeah.
So you're consecrated for 16 years now.
Yeah.
Right. I did mine in 2014 before leaving Brazil, and mine was in November, and I came 4 months after. I'm just saying this, right, because I believe Our Lady has a hand into this. I was struggling big time when I moved. I didn't have the same mentality that you had. I came to live with my dad, and more or less the same lifestyle that you had, going to mass every day, saying the rosary and praying a lot. And I came here and I couldn't speak the language and I didn't find any support. And I found myself immersed in a secular life. In December 2015, I went to live by myself, and I had an experience, and I cried, and I wanted to live again in the life of grace. And then 2016, I was struggling big time. There was one particular day that I was praying alone in my apartment, and I felt waves of grace coming into me, and I made a very sincere prayer. I said, I was praying for maybe 10 minutes or something, and I felt tears, and I felt anger against God, because it was over a year that I had moved to Belfast, and I was completely alone. I didn't have friends in the church. I didn't know anyone in the church. And I was, in a sense, lost. And I was thinking, what life is in sin? It's terrible. I was very disgusted with myself. And I was very disappointed with God. And in my prayer, I cried out, I shouted, and I swore. And I said, God, why did you do this to me? Why did you bring me from Brazil, where I had an amazing spiritual life, to this disgraceful place where people don't pray, where there's no young people in the church, where everyone that I know is either in a party, is drinking, having sex, or using drugs? Why did you do this to me? And I was very angry. I was really, disappointed. And this was in 2016. And about January, February, March time. And was a few months after that I was at Mass saying my Thanksgiving after Mass that you approached me. So I say the fact that you came to Belfast was an answer to my prayer as well. Because you're the one who invited me to the Legion and opened the doors to have friends in the church. And I believe because Our Lady is the one who made our paths cross, I'm very grateful.
It's interesting you mentioned that because, as I said, I have this mission that I feel to help people that leave the communities, so that it's not to encourage them to leave, but it's to encourage them to have a life, And in a way, that's exactly where you were. You were living in your community and then feeling part of nowhere, right? And that exact anger, it's what I was describing earlier today, which is, I've seen that so many times. I've seen that so many times. I've heard these very words many times in different ways, with some of them with more bad words involved. But the content is the same. And so I'm very pleased that God used the worst tools to make the great things. Praise Jesus.
Amen. So we're going to go on a short break. Whenever we come back, we're going to talk all about your experience in the Legion of Mary in Belfast.
Great.
Welcome back to the second part of the third episode. We're talking to Felipe Cunha, and we went to a short break, and I mentioned that Felipe was an answer to one prayer that I made in 2016. And he came to Belfast, and he was already a legionary, and he remained a legionary. And can you tell us about your experience, migrating from the south to the north? Was there any difference in the Legion there that is not here, or that is here that is not there?
Yeah, I think the difference, it's not easy to see. But the first thing that got my attention was we were in Morning Star there, which was run all by volunteers. When I came to Belfast, there were members of staff as part of the Morning Star, which I wasn't aware. So it was strange to see the difference. So, for example, when I stopped for praying in Dublin, here there wasn't these, there was some sort of things we did. I think in Belfast we used to do duties 6 to 8 and 8 to 10. So I would say grace, serve the meals, then talk to the guests, and then 8, and then say the rosary. And then the group from 8 would say the rosary, and then serve a lunch, like a kind of snack before going to bed. But there in Dublin, I think it was more the sense of community, because we did everything. To do the dishes, we had to do the floor, we had to do the porter, everything we had to do. So that was the first difference, I think. Another thing I think was I found the legionaries in Dublin are very dedicated. They really do everything, in many aspects. But I found, at least in my group here in Belfast, that they were more evangelistic. They wanna. I don't know if I was just lucky or if that's a real difference, but at least in my group, I thought they were more dedicated in that sense, in terms of evangelize. True, they were caring about souls and things like that. Maybe because he doesn't accept coming here, but if Brother Brian Green was here, I think it would be a good example, because I think he was the president when I joined, and he has the Legion charism very strong in him, and I think he's very evangelistic, and I think because he was the president was something different for me to see someone that's intellectual and live the faith, which I was used to see in Brazil, but not so much in Dublin. In Dublin, I think people are more relaxed because the faith is not much challenged there as it is in Belfast. So I think there's a little bit difference, but it's very little. You almost can't say. I think it's because I could observe one from the other very close, and that I could see the difference. But you didn't notice in a naked eye, I would say. You didn't notice.
So you were at a Morning Star Praesidium for how long?
Yeah, I stayed in Morning Star until 2019. So
about 3 years.
3 years again. Yeah. When I was in Morning Star, Brother Green and Brother Michael Riley, they were both doing another Praesidium as part of their duty. They were helping a Praesidium that had only one member left, which is Sister Patsy Fitzsimmons. So she was the only member left in that Praesidium, which was her father that had established 40 years before.
Wow.
So they were helping her to get members. And so when I joined Morning Star, after 1 year, or I think less than a year, I then joined, way less than a year, because I think when you joined already these other Praesidium. So
2017.
Yeah, so there you are. They were doing this Queen of Peace Praesidium as part of the duty of Morning Star as well. On the top of the duty of the Morning Star meeting and duty, they were doing Queen of Peace meeting and duty as well. So I went there to help them. And in 2019, the three of us left Morning Star to dedicate ourselves to Queen of Peace. And that became my home. Queen of Peace became really my Praesidium, and that's where my heart is.
Were you an officer in Our Lady Morning Star?
No, I was never an officer there. I am now, but I was never back then.
Can you share with us what is an officer in the Legion of Mary?
Yeah, so the Legion has 4 officers that are really servers. We help to operate the Praesidium. Some people take that as a more bossy and authoritative approach, which is not what the handbook of the Legion, which is exposed there, suggests. We are there just to make the things. Someone needs to be responsible for something, right? So we have a president, a vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer. So these 4 officers, they then are part of a council, which can be a curia, can be a comitium, can be a senatus, and in our case here we are a comitium. So the 4 officers of a Praesidium are members of the comitium, which is a higher council, which helps to govern the Legion in the diocese or in the region that they cover. So they have different functions, the 4 of them, but I think they're self-explanatory. The president chairs the meeting. It's responsible to delegate the duties and make sure the order of the meeting goes well. The vice president is responsible for the members of the Praesidium and the roll call, and then also to cover for the president when the president is not there, and also responsible for the auxiliary membership. Then the secretary, which is a person responsible to do the minutes and to also bring up a correspondence from comitium and other things and other matters to the Praesidium. And then the treasurer, who is responsible for the cash that goes in and out, to be able to be accountable for the other members of the Lady of Our Lady's money that he is responsible for.
Right. When you joined in Dublin, did you take your promise there, or did you end up taking your promise here in the north?
No, I did my promises there.
Right.
Yeah. I
And
did.
how long until you take your promise from the time you join?
I think it was 13 weeks. I think as soon as I did the 13 weeks, I took my promise, which is the recommendation. by
And
the
what
handbook.
is the promise for anyone who is probably listening to this podcast and doesn't know what is the Legion promise?
Right. The Legion promise is a commitment that you make to the Legion Char Lady to work on her behalf and the behalf of the Holy Spirit. It is taken from the much of the promise is taken from the consecration, Saint Louis Marie de Montfort. Actually, the handbook that is a lot of the consecration. I have a talk, if anyone is interested to see, in my YouTube channel called Twice I Heard, where I explain that to people that the Legion, the practice of the Legion, is the practice of the true devotion. It's not a presumption or something. It's just that's the way Frank Duff decided to do. Whenever he wrote the handbook, he was trying to see how can this book be applied in the real life, and that's the life of the Legion. So, so it's very much connected. And Brother Declan actually says Brother Declan is the Concilium president, which is the highest council of the Legion of Mary, and he feels very strongly that the Legion, to revive the Legion, we need to revive the consecration to Our Lady, and I agree with him 100%. We should think in our councils, in our Praesidium, how that can be done.
Amazing.
Yeah, but just to finish off, so this promise is a commitment that we do to Our Lady, that we're going to commit to the Legion discipline, and to put in practice, and to join the family of the Legion of Mary. So, just want to finish that.
Great. I was gonna say the handbook and the Legion of Mary derives from the consecration to Our Lady. And you said you did your consecration in 2010. I did mine in 2014. Brother Harrington, the one that we had in our second episode, he mentioned he made his consecration recently. And I can say this because of my own experience. I had many experiences with God. I had many moments of prayer, and the Blessed Sacrament has always been at the center of my life. But Our Lady, she is the one who granted me so many graces throughout my life and still does, especially when you are feeling down, especially when you are not praying as you should, especially when you fall off the path, especially when you are completely lost. Our Lady, I see Our Lady as that shepherd, the parable. You talk about Jesus is the good shepherd, but Our Lady is there as well. When we consecrate ourselves through the method, we call ourselves a slave. We belong to her, and she's our honor. We consecrate ourselves to Jesus through her hands, and we give her freedom to do things in our lives that otherwise she wouldn't do. I would say the consecration to Our Lady is the best thing that happened in my life. Everything that ever happened in my life, the good things, derives from this consecration. The Legion of Mary derives from the consecration as well. And that is one of the things that I would say to you who's listening today. If you haven't done, if you don't know about this, there is a book called True Devotion to Our Blessed Lady or Blessed Mother, written by St. Louis de Montfort. And it's a small book, but there is an amazing method that St. John Paul II recommends, which St. Louis de Montfort is a doctor of the church.
No,
it's St. Alphonsus I'm thinking.
yeah,
Right. But still, his spirituality is one that impacted other saints throughout history, including the most recent St. John Paul II. And we talk from experience. Consecrating yourself to Our Lady is, to me, is the best decision I made, and is one that I recommend to you for you to do as well. Now, coming back, we make a promise when we join the Legion of Mary, and there are 2 degrees of membership in the Legion. You can be either an auxiliary member or an active member as well. Have you ever been an auxiliary member?
No. I joined as an active, and then as an active member, you cannot be an auxiliary as well. There are 2 styles of membership. I don't think it's 2 degrees. The idea is one is helping the other. So the auxiliary membership would be more for people that can't do an apostolic work for any reason, and then we count with their prayers to bless the mission of the active membership. And within the memberships, there is the Praetorian and Adjutorian, which is not another level. It's just something it's not spoken. So nobody knows who is a Praetorian member and who is just a regular member. It just requires extra prayers. So it's a little bit hard to explain. But anyway, only the vice president of the Praesidium should know who are the Praetorian members and who are the Adjutorian members. And the only thing they do extra is extra prayers. For example, an active member would need to do the catena every day. The Praetorian member should do the whole tessera every day, the rosary every day, and the mass at least 5 times a week. So it's and the adjutorial is the same thing for the auxiliary membership, but also it's not something to show off because only the vice president could know who they are. The reason it is for people not feel better than the others. Yeah,
it's amazing. When you read about Frank Duff, Alphonsus Lamb, and Edelquin are the 3 causes that we pray for canonization, and they are there's more information on our website, legionofmarydc.co.uk, that you can find if you look there. But you see, Frank Duff had a very regular attendance at Mass. He used to go to Mass every day. Another thing, he used to say the full rosary every day as well, as Edelquin. Alphonsus Lamb, if I'm not wrong, from what I read, he used to say at least 1 rosary every day, and he used to go to Mass every day. Edelquin, she used to say the full rosary and go to Mass every day as well, as Frank Duff did. And this is one of the things as well, I think it can make a lot of difference in our spirituality, because the rosary is there, but the problem in English, at least, I think in Portuguese is easier to identify when you say, I said a third, which makes sense.
Yes.
If you know Portuguese, you know what I'm talking about. A terço, which is a third part of the rosary. And the word rosary means the full rosary. But in English, it's a wee bit difficult. But anyway, how being in the Legion of Mary impact your spirituality and your family life?
Right. That's interesting. I just want to piggyback first in the end of your commentary about the True Devotion book, because it was whenever Frank Duff understood the book, he couldn't understand. He read many times and he couldn't understand. So he read another book, and that explained. I can't remember which was the book, but that was then he understood the True Devotion, and that's when things made sense. That's why Brother Declan usually says that was a True Devotion that opened up the Legion. So that's the first thing. I think it's important to understand that it's not an easy read, but it's a very important one. And also the 33 days to morning glory, it's not this consecration that we were talking about. It's made in 33 days, and it's a Marian consecration, but it's not it does not replace the consecration of the that Saint Louis Griot de Montfort
proposes.
Yeah, just so people need to be aware, because now there is a kind of misunderstanding because of the similarity between the two of them. Some people are even saying, oh, you should do that one because it's shorter and it's nice reading. It's all nice, but the consecration, they have a style. The 33 days, it's the days of detachment of yourself, detachment of the word, intimacy with God, with Jesus, and intimacy with Mary. So there is a path there, and there is some meditations towards that end. So nothing against it, that 33 days morning to glory, but it's just it's different consecration and does not replace that one.
Very good.
But there are methods, as you said, different books that do the St. Louis method. So I just want to clarify that before moving on. But yeah, I think the Legion impact on my family and spirituality. I think the first thing, as I said in the first blog, was the maturity. I could mature my faith and the way to live my faith, because it was very much attached to the songs and praise and all that. And I think I was feeling I wanted to be in the world, but being able to have a food that was proper, proper food. And I felt that was missing something there. So I think that helped me on that. But it was a struggle. I struggled with the Legion for years. I was always looking elsewhere, other things, other communities, other organizations that I could join. And
why?
Because I didn't feel it was fulfilling, what I wanted to do. I think was rigid. I thought it was very closed in a box, and I wanted to have other ideas outside of the box. I felt it needed formation. I felt it missing formation, and things like that. Because like in Dublin, they have the patricians, which is a study group, and we don't have it here. And I think it would be an awesome idea if one day we could implement the patricians here, which is, I think it's important to have these study groups. And also it's good to invite people as a first experience before they actually join the Praesidium itself. So it's food for thought. But I felt there was something missing. So I tried to go to other groups and organizations in the meantime. But at least in Ireland, I think in Brazil, people are well served. You can have any sort of group that you want. But at least in Ireland, I couldn't find that. It's not that there isn't, but I couldn't find a place where I felt comfortable, and at the same time they were evangelistic, and I feel in the Legion, no matter how old they are, so it is a true statement to say there are many older people in the Legion. It's okay, but they are evangelistic. They're shameless. They go to the streets and they talk about Jesus and Mary and the church. They go to door. They go anywhere, and sometimes they even are embarrassed, but they overcome that to do certain missions. So I find that unbelievable, and I think it's such a privilege to be around these people. And I think it would be a privilege to have other young people that would learn from these people, and do the same and replicate it. So I think that's the first thing. So yes, I struggled. I tried to find something else, but I didn't really find. I found some place where there were nice music, but nothing else. Another place where they had some evangelization, but it was more as a side duty. Wasn't the main thing, wasn't the core. And then with time, I learned how to be outside the box, within the box, if you know what I mean. We did in the Queen of Peace Praesidium, we organized, we brought Matt Frad, we did an event with him. That was something that I always wanted to do. I always wanted to do events like that. We organized the Rosary Festival. So those things were in my heart in the very beginning, but I thought was not possible, And then it's only when you start to get more, I think getting more English as well helps to be able to defend my own idea. So I think that's how it helped my spirituality was I got a more mature style of living my faith, and that was more in line with what's in my heart. I think because of the life in the monastery and the things that I learned, I could no longer be living as it was in the past. I had to change, and I think the Legion helped me to build the path for this.
One of the things that some people have restrictions about is they say you can only join the Legion if you're single. You can only join the Legion if you have free time. Do you agree with this statement?
No, I could not disagree more. I think it is like, if you say that, it's almost saying that married people don't have other things, that they don't do other things. But if you see the reality is most husbands and wives, not most, but many, they go to the gym, they go to football, they have time to watch TV, they have time to do extra hours at work, they have time to do loads of things. So why this time cannot be given to God? 2 hours a week, well, 4 hours a week, if you think, or 3 hours and a half, right? If you think about the meeting 1 hour and a half and then the duty 2 hours, it's 3 hours and a half a week. I mean, I'm sure we watch TV, we do other activities. So I think it's really for everyone. It really depends on how you feel the calling, to do things. And I think one thing that Brother Green always says is like, Jesus didn't say, go and preach the gospel, provide you're not married, provide you're not busy, provide, that's not what Jesus said. Jesus said, go and preach the gospel to every creature. So I think we should bring more awareness of these, and people have the choice, to give the time to God when they want. And what happens though is husbands and wives, they usually get jealous about anything when it's to do with religious things. So in the past, I would say that most women would be praying quite hard that their husbands went to the church. And then nowadays what happens is, if the husband wants to do something in the church, I think they'd rather him to go drinking or go to the gym than go to the church. And I think that's quite frustrating that this is happening. So I don't think it's the Legion is for single people or for mature families. I think it's for everyone. And there are times in life when things need to change. Like if we're under pressure and you need some time, that's okay. Or if we had a new job or something, it's fine. Things happen in life, but I don't think it is a definitive cause to say I have a young family, therefore I cannot do that. You and I, you have 5 kids, I have 4 kids, and it's like we see many times men with 1 kid or 2 saying, "Oh, I can't because I need to help out with my kids." And we know how it's a life with 1 kid and 2 kids and 3 kids and 4 kids, and we know that it is hard, but it is possible. If it was for something else, they would probably do the sacrifice. So that's the idea that I think we should have in mind.
While you were talking, I was thinking about something that I have shared, and this is from Maria Legione's edition 2 of 2026. I'm not sure if you saw that. This is the edition, I think, for the second quarter of 2026 that the Legion releases as a magazine from Concilium. And there's an interview with one of the officers from Concilium there. And the question 4 says, what challenges are currently facing the Legion of Mary, both nationality and internationally? And she responds, one of the main challenges facing the Legion of Mary today, both nationally and internationally, is recruitment. Many people are not aware of the Legion, like I wasn't, or may have misconceptions about it. At the same time, members can feel hesitant about inviting others to join, often due to a lack of confidence or fear of being misunderstood or reproached. Do you agree with this statement? Actually, how long you're in the Legion today now? If you count all the years since you joined.
10.
10 years. Do you agree that the main challenge of the Legion of Mary now, 2016, is recruitment?
Yes, I agree. I think she's spot on. I think the problem is, yes, I think she's right to say that one of the problems is misconceptions. People don't know about the Legion. The other problem as well, I think, is sometimes we're not communicating the Legion as it should. So we've done now. You and I have done a kind of repage, rebranding of the Legion in Down Corner in our website. So we have, so for those who are not aware, we have this company, AMDG Core, and we do websites. And then we decided to do as a first project to do the Legion of Mary. And as soon as you did it, what happened? We got 200-300% increase in accesses, more communication, people sending emails to us. At least every month we have emails or messages of people messaging us. What that communicates? That communicates that when we improve, we make it more modern, more attractive, people will come naturally and will get to know. And if you go to our website now, you can know about the history of the Legion. You can know about the essays, Frank Duff essays. You can see about the communication from Concilium. You can find the Praesidium. You can find how to contact us, what we are about. You can find everything. So, because in the past, what sometimes looks like, if you go to another country, and I've tried to do that. My sister was living in Argentina, and it was so hard to find the Legion of Mary Praesidium for her there. She was in a student city called Rosario, and she just wanted a Praesidium of the Legion of Mary. And I had to find contacts for someone in Buenos Aires that could try to give me a contact of someone in Rosario to see when the meeting was, where it was, and it was really hard. So I think we need to improve the communication because there are people seeking. But if we're not explaining to them how they join, where they join, how they get in touch, how they're going to do that. So that's the first thing, which is the less challenging thing. That's the easy bit. The most challenging, yes, is to approach people on the street or to talk to our friends and to explain. One day I was in Concilium and I heard someone saying that Frank Duff used to ask people to ask 6 people a week, right? And I brought this information back from the Concilium to the Comitium, and they embraced it. And now every Comitium meeting, Brother President asks, well, now I do it because I'm the Vice President, but it was first encouraged by the Brother President, and then now I'm just looking after the numbers. But I asked, how many people did you invite this month, your Praesidium? And our idea is to get the closest as possible of 6 people a week per person. So imagine, and funnily enough, I was doing a calculation. In the end of the year, we do an annual meeting, an annual gathering, a dinner where we have some time together, to talk about the Legion. And we had the dinner, and then I did a calculation. If we wanted to increase our number, I can't remember, but I think it was by 50%. And funnily enough, the calculation that I did, if you wanted to increase the number by 50%, based on the ratio of how many we invited per how many actually joined the Legion, right? The calculation in the end was coming as 6 people a week. So per person. So if every member of the Legion is asking 6 persons to join the Legion, then you increase your number by 50%. At least that wasn't the ratio based on our reality. But that's the key. And that's for any salesperson. If you have a salesperson say, yes, I have to ask 100 people to get one to buy something, Right. That's the same thing in the Legion. You got to speak about it. You got to invite people. Sometimes it's hard. For example, I work from home. In my work, I had to disclose that I am a member of the Legion of Mary because of conflict of interest and things like that. So I'm not allowed to speak about the Legion there, right? So it already reduces my exposure. But when I go to the mass in another church that I'm not usually there, I always have a card of the Legion, and I try to spot someone that I think would be interested. And then just after the mass, I just go, hey, what about joining this group? I think you're gonna like to have people like-minded. And then I give the card. That's it. And then I think it's easy as that. And then eventually people will come. Not always the people that you invite, but God invites their own people.
I was gonna ask you. So we always go from the preposition or from the basis that people already know everything about the Legion, and I think it's good that we stop and explain a few bits and pieces. For example, the duties. We talk about duty here, duty there. What is a duty?
Yeah, so as I said, the Legion, you require to do an evangelistic work. So every time you come to the meeting, which is a Praesidium, as you call them, the smallest cell, the smallest group of the Legion is called a Praesidium. So in this Praesidium meeting, you will be assigned a duty, which is a volunteer work for 2 hours to do something evangelistic. And it can't be a prayer unless you are organizing the prayer. So people want to do adoration. I want to do 2 hours of adoration. I want to say the rosary. Well, you can do that, but you need to be organizing it. So if you go to a church where they don't have adoration and say, Father, can I have the adoration for 2 hours here? And then invite other people to come, and he says yes. And then he's able to provide, to expose the Blessed Sacrament and do it for you. Then that can be your duty. But most of the time we do door to door, or we do street contacts, or we organize events, or we do public rosaries and things like that. So sometimes it takes less than 2 hours. If it's something that it can't take 2 hours to do. For example, the parish priest, the administrator of the cathedral, Father Martin, who is responsible for the Praesidium Queen of Peace, where we are based, asked the Legion to cover one rosary before the 7 p.m. Mass, 7:30 p.m. Mass on Tuesday nights. So you go and you say the rosary. That can't take 2 hours to do, but that fulfills your duty. So, and that's how it works. And we are at the disposal of the priests. Whatever the priest wants the Legion to do, the Legion will do, which is a blessing, and it's a gift for the church.
And it's amazing. I was reading one of the articles, one of the essays that Frank Duff wrote. And the Legion at the start was very rejected. Priests had a lot of objections and restrictions. They thought the Legion was invasive, the Legion wasn't helping, the Legion was not good, the Legion was a threat to the church, which is madness from the start. But anyway, one of the things that we say nowadays is that the Legion is the arms, the feet, the members of the priest that are stretched throughout the parish, throughout the community, and we are doing the work that the priest cannot do because he's either doing something else, administering the sacraments, or bringing the Blessed Sacrament to people who are sick, whatever. Is there a preferred duty that you have?
So there are two things there where I wanted to comment before I answer your question. One thing is, yes, people might have thought that whenever Frank Duff started the Legion, remember it was 1924. 24. So 1924, this is way before the larger engagement of lay people doing evangelistic work, So it is understandable that people felt the threat of this. At the same time, yes, I agree with you, we're the hands and feet of priests because they need to have more free time to do what only them can do. nobody can hear confessions. Nobody can say mass. You know what I mean? Nobody can do weddings. So they need to do it. They need to have the free time to do it. And then we go out and spread the message for him. We tell people what's the confession times, what's the mass times, or we invite them back to the mass. We find out who is sick and needs a priest visitation and all that. So it is a pleasure to do that. And I think, and that's a message for the priests, they should take the opportunity. They have people giving up their own time to do his job, in the sense of not his job, but the job that's required in the parish, and visit all the doors, to do whatever he wants. You can promote anything you want with the Legion. The Legion requirement is to promote anything that's Catholic. So anything the priest tells you to do, it's what you're going to do. So I think it's a blessing, and I don't think priests appreciate that as much. And I do think that's still to this day, people don't understand. They just see a bunch of people meeting up to say the rosary, but that's not the point. If the priest wants to know how is the life of his parish going, he can attend one meeting of the Legion, and he will know what people heard about, what they're talking about the church, what they're talking about anything, because that's the place where we can disclose these findings, and then you can tell Father, they're saying these. That's the reason why they're not coming to mass. That's the reason why, or they're going to mass elsewhere, because of this, because of that. There was one parish that I did visitation once, many years ago, and they say, "Oh, we don't like the priest here. We go in that parish." So it's important. It would be important for the priest to know that why they're doing that. Oh, it's because he's very political orientated or whatever. It's important for the priest to know all these things. So I think the priest should take more the Legion as a tool for their own evangelistic work, And I think we are, not us personally, but I think the Legion is underestimated, and I think they should avail more of what the Legion has to offer.
Yeah, coming back to the
I forgot
duty.
your question now.
Yeah, is there any duty that you like the most? Is your preferred?
Like, if I'm being honest to my interior idea, so St Ignatius, he always, there's something he says about the Ignatian indifference, right? So the Jesuits, they were advised to not prefer something. They prefer anything that's given to them. You know what I mean? Do they want to go on a mission in the Holy Lands, or they want to stay in Rome, or they want to go to France? They don't want anything. They just want to go what God wants. So if I should be true to my heart, I shouldn't be saying. But to answer your question, I think the stall in St Mary's Chapel Lane is definitely my favorite duty that I like doing. But I like organizing events. So if I could organize events throughout the year, that's something where I can be comfortable doing it, and then I would not feel that I'm doing something under pressure, But the stall and corn markets in the city center of Belfast, they're hard, they're more challenging, but they're enjoyable as well. So I like doing them too.
There any experience that you remember meeting anyone in particular?
Nothing that comes to mind like that. Yeah, there are, but I wouldn't be able to remember.
It's funny that you mentioned. Is that the one that when you were talking in the first part that you said there was a saint that you had before your time, and it's make a difference in your life today?
Yeah,
is that
St Ignatius.
And
yes.
it's the day we are releasing this episode. For
and
the
that's
greater,
how you convinced me to come here.
for the greater glory of God, can you talk to us about St Ignatius, your devotion, and so this is the corollary of the fact that we are releasing this episode today is because of your devotion to St Ignatius.
Yeah. So as you said, there are some saints that they choose us. That happened to St Ignatius. I was in the monastery, and we came to to Europe in 2011, and I came just to be the driver because the sisters of the monastery they need some drivers that not everybody could drive, and anyway I came to help them. And during the time it was a World Youth Day in Madrid, so we were doing a tour before we went to Madrid, and we were in Rome, and I was invited to go to the Chiesa de Gesù, and that was a Jesuit church that was very, very beautiful. And we went there, and then one of the sisters went to the office on the side, and they were talking to a priest, Father Salvatore, and he said, I would like to invite you to visit the bedroom of St Ignatius. And we said, yes, let's go. So as we were walking in, I started to feel really strange. And I never heard about him. I only heard about him because of schools, because there's so many schools, St. Ignatius schools and stuff like that. And there was something going on inside. And as soon as we entered into his bedroom, there were his shoes there, and I really couldn't take my eyes off it, and then just off it, and then I started to really feel like I wanted to cry. I wanted to stay there forever. I just didn't want to leave the room, and I feel like, I don't know, a little bit, how to say, when you feel off balance a little bit, really strange. But something feeling inside out, and I couldn't put in words. And then I turned, and then there was his burst there that's made out of his own face. Whenever he died, someone took the form of it, and then so it's literally, it's not someone that's sculpted. This is actually a proper one, and they made in the same height of him. So as I turn, it's almost I'm looking at him, and all his place where he wrote 7,000 letters or whatever, there and all over the place. Anyway, so that was an experience, and I saw his chasuble that used to say mass in the chapel where he died, when he was passing. And so anyway, it was a very strong experience. And I kept that in my heart, never read about him anymore, left it. So when I was already here, already in the Legion, already doing my things, someone told me that I should read the history of the Company of Jesus, which is the Jesuits. And I read the volume 1, volume 2, read his life. I'm reading the St. Francis Xavier life now. And I'm really impressed. He was a rich man from the nobility of Spain, and he was in a war, and a cannonball hit a rock, fell on his leg. He couldn't walk. He was very proud of things, so he didn't want to walk like he was limp,
A cradle or something.
Yeah. So he asked to do a surgery without any anesthesia. Well, there was an anesthesia, but it would be very painful. They had to put back in place. They did it. So the time for him to heal was so long that he read all the books he had to read about the knights, that there were no books left, only the Passion of Christ and the Life of the Saints. He was already Catholic, but he wasn't leaving his faith. When he read that, then he found out that, yes, there's the honor of the knights, but the honor of the saints were much higher. And he could not cope. He said, these guys are hero. These are the real heroes. And that's his conversion. And he left all his armies and stuff and dedicated to be poor, to evangelize. And then he started the Jesuits, where so many martyrs, and they went to evangelize Brazil and the Indias and all that. And we are seeing the fruits of it now, where the India people are coming and populating all the churches, in UK and in Ireland and in Europe. But when you see the Syro-Malabar community, the Indian community, they're very big and strong. And when you see St. Francis the Savior, who is the man who most baptized people, he'd baptize entire cities. That's so much that his hand could no longer cope, that people had to hold his hand and do the sign of the cross because he could no longer do that. So that's how strong it is. And he would do sometimes 10,000, 15,000 people, just at once. Boom, boom, boom. So anyway, that's St. Francis Xavier from the Jesuits, and it is remarkable. And then I could see the signs of his presence. So my first things that I wrote about the faith and all, I always have the cross and an IHS, and I didn't know that was a symbol of the Jesuits. I didn't know, and I always had that throughout my life in the church. I didn't know, and then when I came to Ireland, this priest was a Jesuit priest that helped me to learn English. So it was so many signs of things that I didn't know was there. He had chosen me before I even knew who he was. So I took that as a motto for my life, for the greater glory of God. And when I was president of our Praesidium, Queen of Peace, I was president for 3 years, a little bit more. And that was my kind of my inspiration. And that's why when we talk about the Legion being an army and all that, that's where I took it from. It's the idea of being a knight, do whatever needs to be done, and do it for Christ. So anyway, it's I could talk the whole night about him.
Amazing. I was gonna say you went from some Padre Pio, St. Francis, St. Therese of Avila, St. John of the Cross, and St. Ignatius of Loyola. Is there any other saints that you are devoted to?
St. Joseph.
St. Joseph?
Yeah. But I think that for the more modern saints, I think these are my patrons.
Still?
These are my patrons, yeah. Yeah. I think it's just so close to what I believe.
What about the patrons of the Legion? Do you see any resonance with your faith and with the patrons of the Legion as well?
Yeah, well, Alfie Lamb, he has a bit of that. He has a bit of this. He would evangelize with the same idea that I think St. Ignatius had, and also he went to South America. He went to different country, speak a language that's different for him, and he went to Brazil as well in the, how do you call, the Eucharistic. There's something that happens every other country. I forgot the name. That Chesterton was in the one here in Dublin as well. The Eucharistic Congress. He went in Brazil, so there are pictures of him there, and I think that's he's that. So the Legion has that idea. That's the same of the Jesuits, which is you go almost on your own. It's not on your own really. It's usually in pairs. You go on your own to really start something new. The Legion had so many employees, and still to this day you have members of the Legion everywhere. Even where it's forbidden, you have Legion presence, and we don't see that anymore. We don't hear about it anymore. But the missionaries are still there. So I think that's nice, and I think that's something he did it that I think it's very dear to my heart. And then if you see Adele Quinn, he went to Africa to stay among the poorest of the poor, And I think if you see her pictures, how she embraced it, how they loved her and how she loved them. I think we're all connected somehow. I think they are interceding for the mission that we do as well. And I feel somehow connected to them when I see their lives and what they see. There's a fact of Alphonsus Lamb when he was evangelizing and inviting someone, to join the Legion of Mary, and I think he asked if the person want to work for for Our Lady, and I think the person said they didn't believe or something like that. I can't remember the story, and he said, like I'm not asking if you believe, I'm asking if you want to work for Our Lady, and that was a big thing for the person. I think that's the idea. I think that St Ignatius' approach is very similar to that. That's how he convinced St Francis the Savior to convert as well, because he was very much into the intellectual life and he didn't want to do any evangelization. And St Ignatius got him to have these eureka moment, that's discovery.
Right. There is a project that we are involved called myholyhero.com, which is born on the heart of Luke, which was a legionary as well. And if you go on this website, you can sort of adopt a cause for a hero we call a holy hero who is in the path for canonization. And the 3 legionaries that we have in the Legion of Mary, as an example, are there. So you can go on myholyhero.com. You can either pick Frank Duff, Edel Queen, Alphonsus Lamb. You're going to be given a prayer, and you can say that prayer asking for miracles. That's the thing I think sometimes in the Legion we fail to do, because we ask, in Our Lady Queen of Peace, we always ask for their intercession, and we always ask their for graces through their intercession. But sometimes I think we forget to ask for miracles.
I agree. Well, so that's the idea of My Holy Hero came. So Luke was very involved with Archbishop Kavanagh. That's the one that said the prayers, 100-day masses for the Holy Souls, and then Our Lady appeared in Knock. So he was very much into that, and he wanted to promote that somehow. And then he saw, so my last daughter, when she was born, so Beatrice, when she was born in an emergency C-section because they couldn't hear her heartbeat, was very slow. And so they thought she had something in the heart. So she was born. They then thought she had long QT, which is an issue in the heart. So you need a pacemaker and all. And I asked everybody to say the prayer for Venerable Edel Queen. I said, I'm a member of the Legion of Mary. I need to ask my brothers and sisters to pray for me. Why not ask the ones that are closer to the canonization? Because then I help them to have the miracle. They help me to have my miracle. And I asked the whole Legion to pray for Edel Queen for this intention. And Luke saw that, and he saw that's what we need to do. We need to pick one person that is in the process with one intention, clear person, join them and do the prayers. So he then phoned me and said, Felipe, I have this crazy idea. I was thinking about that. And then I said, mate, I have the same idea, but it was to do in a physical place. I wanted to do a place where people could go in and read the stories of these people. Like a sort of museum kind of idea. But then I thought the name of this place would be the Rio Heroes. And then I said, what about the website to call the Rio Heroes? And he said, I want something better. I said, yeah, but you can't call saints because they're not saints yet. So you need to think about something. And then he came back with Holy Hero. So we decided to put myholyhero.com, and because of this. So yes, I think it's a great way to do things. And you need to be clear, because if you say that a miracle happened because of the intercession of this person, how do you know if you ask everybody else to pray for everybody? And then,
you're asking 1,000 saints.
yes, and then you don't know. Yeah, people say yes, it's gonna come from Christ. Yeah, Christ will give the grace, but what we ask, and it's not only the grace. We want to ask the grace, proving that this person is in the glory of God. So that's the way it works. When you ask a miracle from a saint, from a person, that it's because you believe this person is already in heaven, and you want God to prove that to the world. So that's the way it works. So yes, people go there, myholyhero.com, pick their holy heroes. They're going to get reminders every time we add a new one, every time it's closer to the date of their holy hero. And that's how it works. They have added now Gilbert K. Chesterton. We have Archbishop Kavanagh. We have Ida O'Quinn. We have Frank Duff. We have Alphonsus Lam, Little Nelly. We have so many options of Irish people that have lived a saintly life that should be recognized. People should do
Great.
it.
Just before we go towards the lightning round, I want to ask...
I'm afraid of what that is.
I want to ask, is there any title of Our Lady that you are devout of?
I love Our Lady of Fatima. I love the message. I love that she spoke Portuguese. I think there are so many more things in the third secret that nobody wants to talk about. And I love that. I think the message that it's more... I like the Fatima, but I think there are mystical roles and Our Lady of... I forgot now the other title. But mystical rose is very. It is everything is mystical about it. I think there's a mystery there, and I find it interesting. But I like them too. But I think Fatima would be closer to heart.
Very good. Just for us to close this part, for me, it felt very natural to join the Legion because I made my consecration on 27th of November. And that is Our Lady of Graces. So when you invited me and I came to the Legion for the first time, there was my lady there, Our Lady of Graces. It's amazing. I loved it.
And I remember when I was texting you to invite you, I said that I was inviting you to join this army of Our Lady. And then you said, is everybody consecrated there? I think they should be, because the handbook encourages people to be consecrated. And then you say, yes, I think I should go. I said, yes, I think you should.
Very good. It's amazing. Just another reminder, there are some legionnaires who are not consecrated. If you're listening to this and you are a legionary, you should consider learning about the book, reading, and making your formal consecration. It's very important.
The Legion of Mary sell the True Devotion book for like 50
Wow.
50 cents.
Wow.
This blue one there.
No excuses.
Yes. Yeah, that's the one. It's literally 50 cents. And you can find free for in the internet as well, so there's no excuses whatsoever.
Great. So quick fire. As I said to Richard last time, don't think. Don't keep hungering. Just give me the answer.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
I'm in big trouble.
So let's go. First one. Changwa or Belfast for the weather, the food, and the football.
Changwa.
For everything.
Weather, food, and football. Yes, Changwa.
Right. The one Brazilian thing you miss most that Belfast simply cannot supply.
The one thing I miss most is Belfast can't weather.
The Brazilian weather.
Yeah.
What is your idea of a good weather? How many degrees?
Mild, like 20, 21.
21.
Yeah, ideal.
For the majority of the year instead of just 2 months?
Yes. 2 months you're being very generous. Right. You get that 2 weeks most.
Right. Coffee at the desk, how many? You drink coffee?
Just once.
People have this misconception. They think all Brazilians, they are in
Crazy
fact
coffee
yeah, I don't like
drinkers.
coffee even. A book you press into people's hands other than your own.
If it's a light reading, I like to give to people Stunned by Scripture by John Bergsma. It's a lovely book, very quick to read. If people are reading to read properly, The History of the Company of Jesus.
Jesuit. Wow. Spreadsheet or sketchbook? Where do the best ideas actually start?
Sketchbook.
Sketchbook.
Yeah.
Favorite corner of a church anywhere in the world?
What does that mean?
A place in any church in the world that you prefer the most?
I don't know. I think St. Peter's in the Vatican.
A dinner party saint. Who do you sit next to you and why? If you were able to bring saints in a dinner.
I've told you all them. Padre Pio, St. Francis, St. Ignatius, St. Teresa.
Just one. If you could choose just one.
St. Ignatius.
Finish the sentence. For the greater glory of God means on an ordinary Tuesday.
Oh, just embrace it. Embrace the suffering. Embrace the life as is.
On his feast, St. Ignatius, pray for us. What would you actually ask him for today?
To convert my heart closer to Jesus.
Now, brother, the last word is yours. Whatever you'd like to leave with the listener. A thought, a word, a prayer.
No, I don't know. I think I've said so much. I think let's try to get closer to Jesus, to unite ourselves to him, to let him take over our lives and lead us in the path, surrender ourselves to him, let God be the Lord of the heart, of our heart, and that we can do everything through him, with him, and for him, for the greater glory of God. Amen.
Amen. Amazing. Thank you very much, brother, for making the time, for being here, for sharing your life, and talking about all these years that you have been in the Legion. Would you like to leave an invitation for anyone who probably arrived to this far in this podcast and is thinking about joining the Legion?
If you're still watching, you definitely if you haven't slept through the way here of the conversation, which Kieran is not included, and I think you should definitely join the Legion or join an organization near your house where you can do a bit of work for God. Yeah, and the Legion needs people, and needs people that are willing to give an extra mile at this time. Otherwise, Ireland would not be back to where it was, and if we don't do it ourselves, it's like, I think it's President Kennedy, is it? He said, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? So that's my message. You need to join. It needs to be you, nobody else. And I know Our Lady chooses the worst tools, but she make great things.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much, brother.
Thank you guys for having me, for the patience, and I hope I made you sleep well.